Goblin launch detected.
Before we get into today's game, I want to talk about the sponsors for my channel. Card Conduit is the best way to sell your unused magic cards. Whether you've got a box of unsorted bulk, or a complete and alphabetized set, there's a great option for everyone. With a payout averaging 19% better than using any one buy list, and that's after fees are applied, you can rest assured you'll get the best bang for your buck. If you're a skeptic like me, their easy customer service and detailed reports make the whole interaction transparent and safe. And if you use the affiliate link in the description below, or the promo code MTGMUDSTA, you'll save 10% off their fees. And 401 Games, Canada's one-stop shop for trading cards, board games, and hobby supplies. Not to mention an easy to use and great online buy list. And if you use the promo code MTGMUDSTA, your first purchase of MTG sealed and singles will be 5% off. And Dragon Shield, the strongest sleeves for your strongest deck. So be sure to use the code MUDSTA or the affiliate link down below to save 5% on your next order. Today's patron shoutout goes to Adam. Thanks Adam for supporting me through Patreon. If you want to see your name pop up in the videos, be sure to check out my Patreon with a link down below. Today's game features Max playing Coram the Undertaker, and his opener has Brawn, Talisman of Indulgence, Riveteer's Charm, Find and Finality, Cinderglade, Evolving Wilds, and Shadowblood Ridge. Matt is playing Azlask the Swelling Scourge, keeping Awakening Stone, Dreamstone Hedron, Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, Ulamog's Nullifier, Unclaimed Territory, Mutated Cultist, and Caves of Koilos. John is trying out Cayth Famed Mechanist, keeping Plains, Tried and True Lightning Runner, Austere Command, Mountain, Port Town, Island, and a Battlefield Forge. Last but not least, Arja is playing Jyoti, Moag Ancient, and he keeps Urban Evolution, Treasure Crows, Forest, Hidden Nursery, Quandrix Campus, Propaganda, and Dryad of Ilsean Grove. Now, before we get into today's game, I would love to know who you think is going to win, so leave a comment down below. Max wins the die roll and starts us off. He draws and plays an Evolving Wilds, cracking it to find a forest. Mathieu has an Unclaimed Territory, naming Eldrazi to everyone's surprise. He passes to John after that. John plays a Port Town, revealing a Plains and passing. Arja draws for turn, and then plays a tapped Quandrix Campus. Max has a Shadowblood Ridge for turn, and pays 2 for a Talisman of Indulgence. Mathieu plays his Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, and passes to John. John just plays a Plains, passing. Arja draws, plays Hidden Nursery, and passes. Max plays a Forest and is first out the gate to cast his commander, paying 4 for Coram. He passes after that. Matt draws, plays a Swamp, and follows Max's example, casting Azlask and passing. John just draws and plays a Mountain. Arja's got a Forest return, and then pays 3 for a Dryad of Ilsean Grove. He then plays a Sunken Palace as his second land for turn, and passes the turn to Max. Turn 4 has Max drawing and going straight to combat. He swings Coram at John, and before damage, everyone mills a card. Sadly, no one hits a creature though, and with no creatures in the graveyard, John takes 0 commander damage. Max then plays a Mossfire Valley from his graveyard, and then casts Brawn from his hand, and passes turn. Mathieu draws and plays Opal Palace. He passes to John after that. John's turn has him playing an island, and he casts his commander with Cayth. As they come in, it makes a servo token with the Fabricate trigger, and John then passes turn. Arja draws and plays the ever-incredible Planar Nexus. He then casts an Urban Evolution, drawing 3, and gets an extra land drop. He plays a Flooded Grove from it, and then a Cloud Post as his extra land from the Dryad, and passes to Max after that. Max plays a Siege Gang Lieutenant in his main phase, and as he moves to combat, he makes 2 goblins with the Lieutenant trigger, and then swings Coram at Arja. Matt mills a big chunky Eldrazi off the attack trigger, which has Arja taking a total of 7. In his second main phase, Max then plays Horizon of Progress from Arja's graveyard and passes. During his end step, Matt flashes out Ulamog's Nullifier for no value but to get a body. Matt draws and plays Caves of Koilos. He then filters green through the Opal Palace to help cast Awakening Zone, and passes after that. John plays a Plains, and then casts Lightning Runner, and puts a +1/+1 counter onto it thanks to Fabricate. Moving to combat, he swings the runner at Arja for 6, who takes the hit. After that, John passes. Arja draws and plays a Forest. He then casts Jyoti and makes a Forest Dryad as it enters. He follows up, not wanting to be attacked anymore, with a Propaganda and passes. Max's land for turn is a Demolition Field, and he then plays the Reaver Cleaver and equips it onto Coram. Going to combat, he makes 2 goblins and then swings Coram at Matt. They all mill their cards, and Matt then blocks with a Nullifier, soaking up 3 of the damage, but still taking 5. With the Nullifier dying, Mathieu gets an experience counter thanks to Azlask. Max also makes 5 treasures from the Reaver Cleaver, and in his post-combat main phase, Max then casts Pongify from Arja's graveyard to destroy the Lightning Runner. He then plays a Plains from John's graveyard. To wrap things up, Max then casts a Barrowgoyf and passes to Mathieu. Matt makes a spawn on his upkeep and draws. He plays a Tendo Ice Bridge, and then casts an Endbringer and passes his turn to John. John draws and plays a Plains. He casts Soul Ring, and then follows up with an Aethertide Whale, making 6 energy when it enters, as well as a Servo token thanks to the Fabricate trigger. After that, John passes turn. Arja's turn has him drawing and then playing Urza's Tower. He then casts Replication Technique and demonstrates with Matt. Matt targets the Endbringer with his copy, but Max responds by using Riveteer's Charm and targets him with it, making him sacrifice his biggest creature. Arja on the other hand gets to copy his Cloud Post twice, and then taps his original Cloud Post for 4 mana, and uses it to help cast Treasure Cruise. Arja then continues by playing a Forest, and then casts Skullwinder. With it coming in, he targets Matt, and Arja gets back his Treasure Cruise, and Matt gets back the Benthic Anomaly to depower Coram, because he got snubbed by that Replication Technique. With nothing else, Arja passes. Max's turn 7 has him drawing and casting Altar of the Goyf. He then goes to combat, getting 2 more Goblin tokens. He swings Coram at John by itself, and it gets +5/+5 because of the altar, and everyone then mills 1. John then throws his Ape and 2 Servos in front of Coram, but takes the rest. This is a total of 5, with Max making 5 more treasure tokens. Max then cashes in all of his treasure tokens to help cast a Gluttonous Hellkite. Everyone is forced to sacrifice 5 creatures, wiping everyone's board except for Max, who eats 5 Goblin tokens. The Hellkite then enters with 16 +1/+1 counters, and Max passes turn. Matt's upkeep has him making a spawn and drawing for turn. He plays a Secluded Courtyard, also naming Eldrazi, and then casts a Mutated Cultist. As it comes in, he uses it to remove all the counters from the Hellkite. He then casts a Dreamstone Hedron for free because of the cost reduction. Matt then continues using the Opal Palace to help recast Azlask, who comes in with 2 +1/+1 counters because of it. He then passes after that. John draws and casts an Austere Command, choosing artifacts and large creatures. This wipes away most of the board, and John follows that up once it's done by casting a Professional Facebreaker and passing after that. Arja draws and plays a Lumbering Falls. He then casts a Philosopher's Vine Wall and reveals Vesuva off of it, which he then plays as another Cloud Post. Arja then casts a Treasure Cruise and still has a Floating Colorless, using it to help cast Hydra Broodmaster. Arja then follows it up with aggressive Biomancy, putting 4 into the X's to make 4 more Broodmasters. The 4 copies enter, and Arja has 1 fight the Gluttonous Hellkite, 1 fight Azlask, and 1 fight the Professional Facebreaker, and 1 fight the Eldrazi Spawn. Matt sacrifices the spawn in response to get an experience counter, and the rest of the fights then resolve. With nothing else, Arja passes. Max draws and plays in Maskwood Nexus, and all of his creatures are now Lurgoyfs. He then casts Find, getting back the Gluttonous Hellkite to hand. Going to combat, Max swings the Barrowgoyf at Arja, which gets trample from Brawn being in Max's graveyard, so Arja takes a total of 7. Max then mills 7, and returns an Eternal Witness from his graveyard to his hand, and passes. Matt makes his spawn token and draws for turn. He plays a Tectonic Edge, and then recasts Azlask, using Opal Palace again, so it comes in with 3+1/+1 counters. John's turn has him drawing and casting Combustible Gearhulk, and as it enters, he targets Arja. Arja decides to let him draw 3, and John then plays a Plains. He then casts Talisman of Progress, and passes after that. Arja draws and plays a Vine Glimmer Snarl. He casts Uro and puts a Lumbering Falls into play off the trigger. Moving to combat, Arja swings his Hydras at Max, and Max blocks 3 of them. Arja then activates the one that's unblocked for Monstrosity, putting 20 into the X, and adding 10+1/+1 counters to it, and making 10 10/10s. Surprisingly, Max still survives, and Arja then passes turn. Max draws and plays a Soul Ring. He's no longer public enemy number 1, so he casts Eternal Witness and gets back Chandra's Ignition. He then recasts it and targets Barrowgoyf to attempt to wipe the board. Similar to last game, Arja is ready with Beast Within, and takes out the Barrowgoyf before it can resolve. The Ignition then fizzles, and with nothing else, Max passes. Matt makes his Eldrazi spawn during his Eldrazi spawn step, and then draws for turn. He plays a Tranquil Landscape, and then casts Benthic Anomaly, making a copy of Combustible Gearhulk with power and toughness from Arja's 10/10 Hydra, and Max's 3/3 Elephant added on. Matt chooses Arja with the Gearhulk trigger, and Arja just lets him draw 3. Matt then passes turn. John draws and plays Satya. He then plays an Azorius Chancery, and bounces a Plains. He then goes to combat. John strikes a deal with Max to let Satya live, and John swings it at Max and makes a copy of the Combustible Gearhulk. The copy comes in and targets Arja, and Arja lets him draw 3, and Arja lets him draw 3, and then blocks it with one of his giant Hydras. In his post-combat main phase, John then casts Talisman of Creativity, and follows up with a Grenzo Havoc Raiser. Arja draws and plays a Forest. Going to combat, he swings his Hydra Broodmasters at Max, and 10 10/10 Hydras at John. Max and John don't nearly have enough blockers to live, so they both just die, and Arja passes. Matt makes his spawn token, draws, and plays an Exotic Orchard. He then plays Ugin's Insight to scry 7 and draw 3, and keeps 2 on top. Matt then follows up with a Soul Ring, and then casts an Eldrazi Displacer. He passes, and during his end step, Arja monstresses the original Hydra Broodmaster, putting 30 into the X to attempt to make 15 more massive Hydras. But Matt is ready though, flickering it with the Eldrazi Displacer to fizzle the ability. Arja draws and moves to combat. After running the numbers, Matt realizes he's still dead either way and scoops it up to Arja. Game review time. So we're doing things a little bit differently. Again, I'm in front of the camera because I'm trying to do more of this and hopefully you're enjoying it. But this game was 55 minutes and 53 seconds, which compared to the first one was actually a bit faster. I was surprised. I thought most pre-con games typically take about 2 hours, so it was kind of nice to be able to nail 2 of them in less than an amount of time. In terms of the alternate commanders, I think Jyoti offers not very much in comparison to Omo. I think Arja's win was purely from the fact that he was drawing so many cards and making so many Hydras, and it did Simic things, which is ramp hard and make a bunch of lands and put out a bunch of lands and then make big creatures and have big X spells. I think it was great, I think it was cool, but I kind of wish it was Omo instead. Coram, on the other hand, I thought was a little bit better than Dissa. I like the fact that his ability goes off as soon as he swings, and I think in this kind of particular pod, having Eldrazi's was a huge boon to him. Mathieu was probably likely to hit a couple big creatures, and as we saw, he certainly did. And that Reaver Cleaver giving him trample to get in was just great. John really just did not have a good streak with any of these games, despite the fact that he actually cast the face commander in this game, whereas he wasn't able to in the last game, which was kind of, funny but also sad. He really didn't get to showcase too much of the deck. He made some energy, but there wasn't really any payouts. It's a shame. It feels like he was able to generate quite a bit, but again, he just lacked any payouts. Azlask was, I don't know. Like, I mean, he's cheaper than Ulalak, which is good and not as restrictive with the colors, but it didn't seem like any of his abilities were relevant. Mathieu never got to activate the pump ability, and he didn't have a bunch of scions to be able to use the Annihilator properly. All we got to see was that cool mutated cultist, which, you know, helped him cast a Dreamstone Hedron. Overall, I think the decks were really fun, and I think there's a lot to build from them. I actually think that they have a decent amount of value, but, you know, of course, the land base is just kind of so-so. Speaking of the decks, these 4 are going to be up for grabs, and all you got to do is follow the link down below, and you'll find out more information on how you can possibly win one. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.